Diamond P Sports presents And They Walked Away, Part 2.
Hello, everyone. I'm Steve Evans, and again, I'll be your host as we delve into the extensive archives of Diamond P Sports. We'll have a look at incidents from World of Outlaws sprint car racing, CMC motocross and AMA supercross, ASA stock cars, swamp buggies, NHRA championship drag racing, and a whole lot more.
Let's pick up the action at the 1990 NHRA Winston Finals in Pomona, California. Now watch the car in the far lane. It's Gary Densham, the school teacher from Bellflower, California. Gary came to the last race of the NHRA season with a beautiful new funny car and promptly turned it into ashes. After the initial explosion, the fire that resulted burned the parachutes away. Gary was not able to trigger the fire bottles, which allowed the fire to grow. Fortunately, he was able to swing the car sideways, rubbing off speed, and with the help of the NHRA Safety Safari, get out quickly. Gary Densham was able to walk away from that inferno with only minor injuries because of the mandated fire wardrobe to protect against such emergencies. The once beautiful Thunderbird-bodied funny car, however, was not so lucky and showed the scars of an intense blaze. Let's see if we can tell what went wrong. It looks like the rear tires might have been just about to break traction, and Gary tried to feather the gas pedal to keep that from happening. Doing this caused a cylinder to fill up with liquid which can't be compressed, resulting in the engine kicking the rods out and igniting a huge fireball. In his struggle to get the car stopped, Gary was unable to trigger the fire bottles, allowing the fiberglass body to become fully engulfed. Only skillful driving kept the car from rolling or getting into the wall. Gary Densham was able to walk away. It's the biggest drag race of the year, the U.S. Nationals at Indianapolis Raceway Park. In funny car qualifying for the 1990 event, Whit Bazemore was debuting his brand new Permatex funny car. And once again, we found out how hard it is to get a car stopped with ports of blazing oil feeding flames and getting under tires. Diamond P cameraman Jeff Kelty caught this dramatic footage as Bazemore tried frantically to get the car stopped. Like Gary Densham earlier, the body on Whit Bazemore's car was reduced to fiberglass ashes. I talked to Whit about the incident.
Well, the car was shaking pretty bad, and got to, it seemed about half track, and it must have kicked a rod out or something, and had a small fire, and it grew. So it's just one of those things that it happens sometimes, and it's the first one for me. It's a handful, but I'm fine. Got to worry about the car now.
It's hard enough to drive a nitro funny car when everything goes right, but nearly impossible when things go wrong. Well, in 1990, things went very wrong in Dallas, Texas. It was the Texas Motorplex and the NHRA Chief Nationals. The Diamond P cameras were there in round one when Mark Oswald, driving the Candies and Hughes funny car in the far lane, suffered one of the most horrendous explosions in funny car history. After the body had disintegrated and sheer momentum had bounced the car from one guardrail to the other, Mark Oswald was able to stop the car without rolling it, saving further damage to the chassis and injury to himself. Dazed and weak, Mark Oswald walked away. In this first replay, you can see that there's a small puff of smoke from the right side of the engine before the actual explosion. Milliseconds later, a horrendous explosion, nuclear stuff, blows the engine and fiberglass body away. In this second angle from behind, you can easily see how total the destruction of the fiberglass body was. I looked at the damage right after the incident.
As they continue to clean up the Mark Oswald incident, we can show you a classic example of what they mean by an engine hydraulicking. So much fuel in a cylinder, the piston cannot compress it, and it blew the cylinder head completely off of the engine and took a lot of the block with it. That's when the supercharger exploded, and that's where all of the fire came from. But this engine is completely destroyed, much like you set off a nuclear device in it. That's hydraulicking. Mark, considering how little control you had with a blown tire, you did a heck of a job.
I just tried to stay as straight as I could. Steve had just had oil and everything all over the front of the visor, and you know, I really couldn't understand why I hit the guardrail. I thought I held the car pretty straight, but they said it pretty much lifted the car right off the ground.
What were you doing when you put your hand, your glove, way up in the air?
I was trying to see if the body was still on. I was feeling for the roof hatch to see if I was going to have to get out or not. I couldn't tell if the body was still on.
Well, banged up a little bit, but basically you're okay?
Yeah, we'll be back. I'm fine.
Some of the most action-packed racing that we cover here at Diamond P Sports involves the winged World of Outlaws sprint cars. Competing on mostly half-mile dirt tracks, these cars are full-bore excitement.
Memphis, Tennessee is the home of Memphis Motorsports Park, one of the hottest half-mile dirt tracks in the country, visited each year by the men of the World of Outlaws Tour. Now, one of the worst things that can happen in open-wheeled racing is that the cars make contact with each other. The results are unpredictable and often spectacular. At the 1989 event, it was the B feature on Friday night, just after the start, when 21 Steve Beitler and 6M Tim Monson came together in the back straight. It was Beitler who got the worst of it, but that big wing on top of the car helped cushion the impact. The seriousness of the incident was evident when the race was red flagged, bringing all cars to an immediate stop. Steve Beitler was able to walk away, shaken up, of course, but was not seriously injured. I talked to him right after the incident.
Steve, you okay?
Yeah, I'm all right, yeah.
A nasty one, though.
Well, I told my dad I'd get on TV one way or the other. I guess this is it. It ain't the way I wanted it, though.
No, I hadn't planned on meeting you quite like this. Do you know what happened? It happened so quickly.
Yeah, somebody in front of me, I think it was Ronnie Daniels, bicycled real hard. When he come down, there just was nowhere to go. We were running real hard in the middle groove, and I ran up over his tire, and the speed on this track, it's not very forgiving. When you get up on two wheels and it comes down, man, it takes off.
Well, you got to be proud of the race car and the men that build it.
Yeah, Oz Car, they're built in Indiana. They do a real good job. I have a lot of faith in their work.
Right. Maybe you should go to the ambulance, huh?
Nah, I'm okay.
Okay, thanks.
Let's ride you over in the car.
Then it was number 88 Mike Ward's turn for a nasty introduction to the back straight. He was all alone when he cut a rut in the main racing groove, proving once again that it doesn't take much to send one of these lightweight sprinters into orbit. When any incident like this happens, the first thought of the driver and crew is, can we fix the car and race again tonight? Mike Ward's crew were giving it their best shot when Brock Yates caught up to them.
Mike Ward, are you all right?
Yeah.
What happened?
Caught a rut and it bicycled and she just went over from there.
Thank God for wings, right?
Yeah, I don't think we hurt too much. We're going to go back out there.
Good, good. Well, we sure hope so. Glad to see you're okay.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Mike Ward, apparently all right. He says we're going to try to get going. I think maybe even this race car is ready to run. They're checking over the front wing, which seemed to have taken a little damage, and the top wing, the big wing, has only got a little bit of a dent. He must have made a nice clear loop. That would be about a 9 if he was a professional diver.
True, but you find out very quickly that a dirt track is a lot harder than water. Then, in the A main of the Friday night show, the situation was this. The field was coming off of turn 2, anticipating a restart. In typical outlaw style, everyone began accelerating on the backstretch. Unfortunately, the number 2 car of Andy Hillenberg became crossed up and got into the 63 Todd Kane car and the 23 of Jack Hewitt. The back straight came alive with open-wheel mayhem. The orange car of Jack Hewitt was catapulted completely over the wall, while Hillenberg and Kane's cars were damaged beyond repair, well, at least for further racing in Memphis. As the pieces and parts were methodically untangled, I talked to a dejected Andy Hillenberg.
Andy, you okay?
Yeah, just a little dizzy.
Rough racetrack?
Yeah, it's pretty rough, pretty fast, so kind of easy to get in trouble.
Indeed. Let's let him rest.
First of all, Todd, are you okay?
Oh, yeah. Just shook up a little bit, but I'm all right.
What happened? You and Andy must have gotten into it together. Or was he going before you got into
Andy
it?
hit a rut and got sideways, and then like he was already kind of flipping, and then Jack's on the outside, and then I think I hit Andy, and then I hit Jack over the wall. I mean, it just all broke loose. Plus, they're all bunched up there tight,
Sure,
and then just something happened. I think they'd get a rut there somewhere back there and just kind of got him sideways, and then like Jack was there and I was there and I had nowhere to go and just drove right into it.
Were you flat out? I mean, were you coming? You were running hard, huh?
Yeah.
You guys tend to start about on turn 2 here.
Started coming out of turn 2. I mean, because all bunched up, and I thought they were going, so I went for it. Maybe that's the time I should have kind of relaxed. If I could do relax here, then
you're in the back.
Right?
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're okay. That's what's most important right now.
Right, it is. Thanks.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Don.
From Memphis, we move further south to Daytona Beach, Florida, and the Daytona International Speedway. We were there for Bike Week 1990. While covering the Harley-Davidson Twin sports race on the Daytona road course, number 143, Sean Higby, got a nasty oscillation going in his front wheel, and this is what happened. Watch the top of your screen. Racers call this a tank slapper. In replay, we can see that Sean Higby got the front wheel bouncing uncontrollably. Anyone who has ever ridden even a bicycle knows how that feels, and grabbing for the brakes makes it even worse. Fortunately, Sean went face first into the grass instead of the track. All the same, ooh, that head is smart. Then, in the same race, it was number 94, Will Roeder, getting off in a hurry and not on the grass. Ugh. If Will can be said to be fortunate, it was that none of the other bikes hit him as he sat collecting his thoughts in the apex of the turn. He had to be hurting after landing on his shoulder with that much force. Let's see if we can tell what happened to Will Roeder. It looks as if the rear wheel broke loose as he accelerated off the turn. Then he overcorrected with the front wheel, causing the bike to catapult him off with unbelievable force. Luckily, the other riders were alert enough to avoid him as they passed. Then, later that season, we followed the AMA Tour to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course in Lexington, Ohio. There, we caught the act of number 58, Mark Pasteur, in the 750cc Supersport race. I'm not talking about coming off the bike in dramatic style. I'm talking about this. Every racer has some showman in him. Mary Lou Retney's not. I talked to him.
Was that just to tell the folks at home you were all right?
Well, basically, it was a sportsman-like move. I didn't want to throw a helmet down because I was very frustrated. That's one way of releasing frustration.
What got you down to begin with?
Well, the 3 bikes that were in front of me were holding me up, and I was using this race here for testing the bike to prepare for the 600, and I couldn't really push it hard enough to feel what the suspension was doing. And I finally got by to 2 750s and was working on the 600, and I was going to make an exit pass out of the corner. And he slowed down more than I anticipated him to, and I had to grab more brake, and I just wasn't set up to do that.
Well, a great show in more ways than one.
Oh, thank you very much.
Later, in the same 750 Supersport race, it was number 40, Ray Yoder, using essentially the same technique to get loose of the bike, only without the celebratory backflip. Then on a 600 Supersport bike, it was number 121, Doug Carmichael, also perfecting ways to get off of the bike in a hurry. His method? Well, just lay it down and slide off ever so smoothly. The racing leathers that all competitors wear may not look like they offer much protection, but if, like Doug Carmichael, you can slide across pavement and get up to ride again, it's testament enough to their effectiveness. Now, let's answer the question about what happens when there has been oil laid down in a corner. Well, like Doug Carmichael in that last incident, everyone practices laying down the bike and getting off in a hurry. David Doe, Jim Cooser, Robert DeLye, James Leslie, and Bob Wright all hit the same patch of oil in the apex of this turn and all had the same idea after they hit the grass. Get out of the way, because there will be other unsuspecting riders coming. Brock Yates talked to young Mr. Wright.
Well, this is what happens when you get off at the end of a very fast straightaway here in Mid-Ohio. Bob Wright went down. He's okay. Motorcycles beat up a little bit. Bob, how many guys were down by the time you arrived on the scene?
Well, it was close to a half dozen of us went down. Appeared to be some oil on the track, and not much else to be said. Just down we went.
We're glad you're okay.
Thanks a lot.
As I said earlier, every rider thanks his lucky stars for good leathers. They are one of the most effective methods of absorbing friction and keeping a rider from being injured in incidents where he finds himself sliding across the pavement.
In all of motorsports, some of the most impressive thoroughbred race cars are the top fuel dragsters that compete in NHRA championship drag racing. Back in 1986, a new phenomena occurred when three-time Winston champion Don Garlits became the first in a long line of racers to experience the top fuel blowover.
In this classic footage that we have shown you before from the 1986 Summer Nationals, the first assumption was that Big Daddy's large front end caught the air and flipped the car over. Nobody was completely sure, though, not even Big Daddy himself.
You've had some harrowing experiences, but that was an unusual one.
It was very unusual. I knew it was gone. It got so high, and then it wouldn't come back. I backed out of it early, but it didn't make any difference. It was accelerating too hard, and even though the throttle was off and everything, it didn't make any difference. It caught wind underneath it.
At the '89 Winter Nationals, however, there was no doubt as to what happened to Eddie Hill. The front wing came loose and pivoted upward, causing the car to lift the front end and blow over in spectacular fashion.
Now, usually you get some warning of something like that earlier in the run.
Yeah, this deal here seemed like it happened awful fast. And another thing, too, I was not expecting it that far down the track, and it was so unexpected. Hardly ever have to lift at that stage of the racetrack. So it'll be interesting to try to figure out what caused that.
Then in July of 1990, top fuel driver and former funny car champion Don Prudhomme had his own experience with the blowover. This was the third car within 7 months that the snake had destroyed.
You race a whole career, 25 years, almost incident-free, and in 1 year, it's incredible.
Yeah, I know. It just started to come up on me there, and it was, picked him up a little bit and set him down, and then it really came up. I don't quite understand it right at the moment.
Well, if you stay between the walls, that's one thing, but when it went over the rail, that's when you frightened us, and I'm sure yourself as well.
Yeah, I didn't know where I was at, obviously. I mean, I thought, oh, no, I grabbed the brake and tried to stop it and everything, but it was just too late. It just went over center, and it was over with.
Join your family.
In looking at this replay, we're able to discover a new culprit in the incident involving Don Prudhomme's car. Immediately after the start of the race, the large rear wing began to lever the front end of the car up. As track speed increased, the levering action became even more pronounced, and the front end just got enough air under it to take the car all the way. And as Don said, once the car has enough momentum to go over center, there is nothing that the driver can do except hold on for the ride. And hold on for the ride is just what top fuel pilot Russ Collins did at the 1991 Winter Nationals. Collins, in the far lane, found out the exact meaning of the word helpless in this qualifying run. As always, the safety safari was right there, and Russ Collins was uninjured. In replay, we see that Russ Collins' rear wing did just what it was supposed to do, only too much of it. In applying down pressure to the rear tires, the wing levered the front end up just as we saw in the Prudhomme incident. And once the front end was up, the front wings acted as lift producers, and over the car went before Russ could possibly react. It could be said that Russ Collins was very fortunate in this incident. As the car corkscrewed through the air, It was pure chance that it happened to land on its wheels, slightly cushioning the impact and possibly saving Collins from injury. The car was heavily damaged, but Russ Collins was okay.
Now that was a ride, wasn't it?
You all right?
I didn't embarrass you, did I, Steve?
Not at all. You were spectacular, though.
I liked that 2 wheels, but when there's 2 on the front are supposed to be in the ground, it's kind of tough.
You know, a blowover like this, every driver thinks about it when he leaves his starting line. There's been so many of them lately.
Yeah, I really never thought about it. I never worried about this car doing it. And I always thought, you know, watching Ormsby and Hill and the rest of them, I thought, I'll stop it. But trust me, there is no way to stop this guy. And as fast as I think I am, boy, there's no way. It is instant. Yes, instant.
Russ Collins echoing the sentiments of every driver who has experienced the top fuel blowover. And believe me, a driver will do anything to avoid the experience again. Can this car be repaired? Probably so. In fact, the car we saw Eddie Hill destroy a little bit earlier is making 4-second passes to this very day. Our annual visit to Naples, Florida, and the Swamp Buggy Championships in 1990 produced some interesting results. First, Leonard Cheshire and his classic buggy, That's the One, had won innumerable titles as King of the Swamp. But when we showed up for the 1990 running of the Swamp Classic, That's the One was hurting. And eventually, so was Leonard. The sight of the old girl, wheels high in the air, was more embarrassing than anything to the proud Leonard Cheshire.
Well, the crew and Leonard Chester trying to analyze what caused the upset. Leonard, you're all right, right?
Oh, yeah. Just got a little dunking.
You know what? It was a little out of control even before it finally went over. I mean, you were having problems early on.
I was trying to adjust the steering. I didn't know what it was. I ain't never did that. And I was trying to get it ready because I got a free ride to get it right for the next one. Man, it just got worse.
Indeed, it did. The only damage appears to be to the rear wing of the buggy, though. Pretty durable old girl.
Well, something in the steering mechanism of that durable old girl is going to need some major repairs before Leonard Chester will pilot her to another Swamp Buggy Championship. You can be sure that Leonard never wants another Swamp Dunkin' like that again. Now, speaking of dunkings, newly crowned Swamp King David Sims did the customary honors for Swamp Queen Carrie Ann Moore. She walked away, of course, with a good cleaning bill. Next, we move to the West Coast in Carlsbad Raceway for the CMC Golden State Nationals. Riding motocross is one of the most dangerous occupations a young man can undertake. Just ask Cody Auclair, who was not having a particularly good day in the 125cc moto. Neither was number 20, Jeremy McGrath, falling in the 250cc class. Luckily, he was uninjured and got back up, losing only a couple of positions. But the most dangerous time for riders is when two bikes come together in the heat of competition, as happened here in a 500cc moto. It was 2H Dan Berg and 15 Tim McClintock going down hard. But they walked away to race again, but still, they had to be hurt.
When you know you're going to go down, you're over the edge. Is there anything you can do physically? I mean, you curl up or do anything to try to prevent injury?
Well, it happens so quickly that, you're pretty much in the position to protect yourself. You're back off the bike, and it just happened so quick that you never really, I didn't even know what happened. I think I started getting sideways, but, I was on the ground, and that was it. I just felt the bike on top of me, and, nothing I could do, really.
It's part of this grand sport they call motocross.
Yeah, happens quick,
We'll let Tim get a rest.
All right, thank you.
During Bike Week at Daytona in 1990, a supercross track was carved out of the infield of the speedway, and that was enough to get the action started. Jean-Michel Bale found out how easy it is to lose control of the bike on the washboard surface of the track, but a little spill did not seem to dampen his will to get back into the fray. Then it was number 2, Mike LaRocco, getting the front wheel hook and going over in the 250cc Moto number 2. He too was undaunted. Give it a kick. Then in Moto number 3, it was number 28, Kurt McMillan, finding out personally just how tricky the track could be. He went down hard, but like the others, got right back after it. Now watch this, as Moto number 3 leader Jeff Matasevich blasts past. 106 Shane Drew catches a run and flips hard. Matasevich, seeing that incident, was probably saying to himself, thank God that wasn't me. We've seen, though, that this Daytona Supercross track is very tough and requires total concentration. And even that sometimes is not enough. In order to lead these motos, a rider needs a little luck. And right about this point, Jeff Matasevich's luck was about to run out. In this first replay, 106 Shane Drew has stopped the bike's front wheel and is catapulted off, flips in the air, and lands hard. Then it's the leader, number 20, Jeff Matasevich, who rode past the earlier incident, doing almost the same thing. He gets out of sync with the bike's balance. He knows right away that he's going over. Now watch the turn worker in the lower left of your screen. Ouch. Then it was number 13, Ricky Johnson, taking a hard tumble in the 250cc main moto. Even after taking a spill like that, he was ready to keep riding. He is that tough. As we look again, Johnson did not get the front wheel of the bike high enough coming off of the jump. This resulted in an off-balance situation as he had to negotiate the next small jump. Then, still vainly trying to recover, the front end was planted. And he went over, and went over hard. The 18 events that comprised the 1989 NHRA season were some of the most exciting ever. Let's start out at the Southern Nationals in Atlanta. Frank Sanchez was in the near lane against Butch Leal in Pro Stock qualifying when he found himself way out of shape. And not only flipped his car over, but forced Butch Leal into the wall, seriously damaging that car. Then, at the Cajun Nationals in Baton Rouge, it was a day that R.C. Sherman in the near lane will never forget. In this replay, we can see just how hard R.C. Sherman hit the retaining wall. Once contact is made, the front-mounted fuel tank explodes in a spectacular fireball. Now, top alcohol funny car driver Grady Bryant knew that National Trail Raceway was one of the shortest tracks on the NHRA circuit. So on round one, when the parachute failed to deploy and the brakes did not get the job done, Grady knew he was going into the sand pit. And go in he did. Grady Bryant did everything by the book when confronted with this situation, and the car should have stopped cleanly. But the front end caught and dug in, causing the car to flip while still moving at a pretty high rate of speed. Grady Bryant walked away, but the car needed some extensive front end work. Then in top fuel qualifying at the Springs, Joe Amato experienced a massive explosion right off the starting line. This incident obviously did not make for a happy day for the Amato team. Joe Amato was also involved in an incident later in the season during qualifying at the California Nationals. Up against Dennis Forcell, Amato witnessed one of the greatest driving jobs of all time, as Forcell popped the blower at half track, cut down a rear tire, and sent the car into a slide that almost took out Amato's car. Forcell got the car stopped with minimal damage, a tribute to his quick reactions. And once again, the White Knights of the safety safari were right on the scene.
And Dennis, an incredible job at driving to keep away from Amato. You missed him by inches.
Yeah, well, it was fortunate. We were just able to keep it away from him because it sure wanted to keep going over that way.
It appears that the explosion blew the tire off.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. The blower came over the top of my head, and then it fell alongside, and the tire ran over it.
Tremendous job.
Thank you.
In this replay, you can see just how close Dennis Worcel came to hitting Amato's car. Just about a foot, I'd say. Gary Ormsby didn't know it at the time, but he was about to experience the wildest 2 weeks in his racing career. Things started here at the California Nationals when Gary lost a rear wing in round 2, virtually destroying the car that he had hoped to take to his first ever Winston Championship. Gary emerged unscathed, but his team was dealt a hard blow, having to replace a race car in a moment's notice. More about Gary Ormsby in a moment, because in funny car qualifying, Gary Ritter in the near lane suffered one of the biggest fires in what was already a very spectacular weekend at the California Nationals. Gary hydraulicked the engine, kicked the rods out, and lit up every last ounce of oil in the crankcase. As we have sometimes seen in other funny car fires, Ritter was unable to trigger the fire bottles, and before long, the fiberglass body was fully involved. The safety safari was immediately on the scene as Gary Ritter struggled to free himself from the inferno. Watch now as Ritter gets out of the car. All he wanted was a breath of fresh air.
It's hard not to panic. The only thing that went through my head was don't panic, just hold your breath, because I couldn't breathe. And if I did breathe, that was smoke.
And there was a long, nervous moment. The hatch came open, but you didn't come out.
I was trying to get the seatbelt off me. I was hung up on the shoulder, and I was about to panic. I was running out of air because I didn't get a chance to take a deep breath of air before that stuff got on me. And I came out after I got loose, and the first thing I did was raise the visor and get me a gulp of air, and then I rolled off the top, and then I felt the guardrail, and I rolled over the guardrail and just lay on the ground. I just trying to get some air.
We're glad to see you're okay.
Oh, I was glad everybody was there. I mean, to get me. They helped out a lot.
Gary Ritter.
Now back to Gary Ormsby. The North Star Nationals in Brainerd, Minnesota. Round 1, a new car, and this. For the second time in 2 weeks, Gary Ormsby had completely destroyed a top fuel race car. This time with a devastating wheel stand. Gary Ormsby himself was completely uninjured in both incidents, but crew chief Lee Beard could not believe the team's absolutely rotten luck. A car that they had owned for 2 weeks lay on the track bent and broken. And oh, by the way, Gary Ormsby and team did win the 1989 Winston Top Fuel title, a tribute to a great team. Also at the North Stars, Jim White's luck was about to change for the worse. Driving Roland Leon's Hawaiian, White kicked the rods out, starting a roaring blaze underneath the car. He managed to drive the car to a safe stop in the middle of the track by sliding it one way, then the other. Also, he managed to hit the fire bottles. Witness all of the gray smoke.
You okay, Jim?
Yes, Steve, I'm fine. Thanks.
You did a lot in your own cause there by getting the fire bottles activated and getting it stopped.
Yeah, that's, you know, this is not my first day out here, and I know that there's a lot of things that we're responsible to do in the cars. A lot of people think that the drivers are doing less and less, but when you have a problem, you have to use your head, and I appreciate the experience I have, and I thank the good Lord for giving me the sense to do the things I'm supposed to do, get the fire put out as quick as I can, get it stopped, get the hatch open, come out that roof, and they were right there to help me. Again, we can't say so much for the safety people. They're right there, and I really appreciate their help.
Jim White is okay.
But all that car owner Roland Leon could see is cold, hard cash going up in smoke. Just 2 weeks later, big troubles again. This time in round 1 at the prestigious U.S. Nationals. The car apparently got some liquid under the tires, causing it to veer wildly, finally hitting the wall. Jim White was okay, but the car was taking quite a beating, and it wasn't over yet. Meanwhile, in Pro Stock Round 1 at the Chief Nationals, it was Bruce Allen apparently on a perfectly normal winning run against Gary Brown when he lost control. As you see, Gary Brown was lucky to escape involvement in this incident. Fortunately, Bruce Allen was uninjured after his car took a really hard shot against the wall. In replay, we can see that as the chute popped, it pulled Bruce's car just enough to the left to send him almost head-on into the guard wall. Not only that, he misses Gary Brown's car by inches coming and going. Bruce Allen was okay after that incident, but with obvious new respect for what can happen in a split second. Speaking of split second, that's all it took to give Mike Dunn one of the greatest surprises of his career in funny car qualifying. I'll bet Mike thought twice before again stepping on the gas pedal. And just when you thought that Jim White's troubles might have been over, snake bit again at the Bull Nationals in round 2. All Jim can do is pull it over to the side and watch as his opponent takes a single into the semifinals. Gary Ormsby came to the 1989 Winston Finals to take the Winston crown from Joe Amato. But before the job was done, there were some tense moments in qualifying. Blower explosions like this one were not confidence builders in a quest for the championship. It all worked out, though, and Gary wore the big number 1 in 1990. The greatest sprint car race of the year is unquestionably the Knoxville Nationals, held in Knoxville, Iowa. In the C feature on Saturday, it was 83 Rod Henderson who lost big in this turn 1 crash as 3 other cars piled into him after he hit the infamous wall in turn 1. Then, same night, D feature, turn 1 claimed another victim. It was the 14R car of Randy Rosenboom. In the B feature on Thursday, it was Cliff Woodward in the white number 12 car getting the worst of it. After he was nerfed into the wall, 56 Danny Smith and 77 Dirk Van Heater plowed into him. Cliff Woodward definitely took a couple of hard shots in this scary incident. As soon as he came to, Cliff Woodward did indeed walk away. Then in Friday's mystery race, it was our old friend from Memphis, number 21, Steve Beitler, who got involved in this tangle on the backstretch with 23S Jeff Gordon, 21K Steve Kent, and 17 Ronnie Daniels. Beitler in the blue and red car on the left of your screen was an incidental victim, but his night was over just the same. In this replay, it's kind of hard to tell just how the incident got started. But the 23S car of Jeff Gordon was flipping, along with the 21K car of Steve Kent, when Beitler, now at the center of your screen, comes in and tags Steve Kent's upside-down car. Try as he might to avoid the fray, he was involved. Such are the fortunes of open-wheel sprint car racing. A racer might not be anywhere near the start of an incident, but come out heavily damaged before it's all over.
Steve, I wish we could quit meeting under these circumstances, but it seems to be our fate. You okay? You were limping a bit.
Yeah, when that guy, whoever it was tipping over in front of me, nowhere to go, and I hit him real hard, and just a sudden stop and jammed my knee in the steering box.
The damage to the car, the front end, it's pretty extensive.
Yeah, we'll have to get her back to the parking lot tonight and tear it apart and just see if the frame's damaged too bad. I don't know, I hope we can fix it.
I hope you can fix it all.
Yeah, thanks, Steve.
Well, it might look hopeless, but more impossible things have been accomplished. In Heat 1 on Thursday, Mike Tweed in the 12T car became yet another believer about how hard the wall in Turn 1 can be. In this replay, we can see that Mike Tweed is nerfed by the 56 car of Danny Smith and rolls into the wall without being able to slow down at all. As a result, he took a pretty good shot on the side of the car and the top wing. Fortunately, the impact was more of a rolling, glancing blow, or Mike could have been seriously hurt. Nonetheless, Mike was pretty badly shaken up, and every precaution was taken to ensure his safety.
Mike Tweed, the local driver, is out of the car. They took a while making sure they had a brace on his neck to prevent any further neck or spinal injuries. He's alert and mustering a smile every once in a while. Now, if you take a look at the wall, you can see why it rung his bell so very hard. The wing really didn't help a whole lot in this situation. He was just in the wrong place at the wrong time and went into it wing first. The roll bar and the wing braces knocking an incredible chunk out of this wall, as we can see right here. And this is pretty solid old timber right here. It took quite a lick. Again, the good news, he appears to be okay. Wow.
In 1990, we again visited Knoxville, Iowa, and nothing had changed in turn one. Everyone wanted to get there first. The results had not changed either. Big crashes. It was the start of the B main on Saturday when the evening's racing ended for number 7, Kevin Doty, 1M Pat Moore, and Mike Brooks in 78B. Gary Gerald talked with Kevin Doty after everything got sorted out.
Obviously disappointed Kevin Doty. You appear to be okay. Can you tell us what happened, Kevin?
Well, I'm fine. The 77 car, Mike Brooks, just cut right down in front of me and probably blew the left or the right front tire, and the car just went straight into the wall.
It's got to be a major disappointment when you come to Knoxville with all the hype, all the money, all the prestige that's on the line, and to have it end like this.
Well, it really is a shame. You know, guys try and win the race on the first lap, and Knoxville's really a great deal. I wish I could have been in the A.
Maybe next year, huh?
Maybe, hopefully.
Kevin Doty's out of this one.
Then, starting in last position in Heat 4 on Thursday, was one of the hottest outlaw runners, number 8, Doug Wolfgang. At that moment, it looked like it was going to be his last race of the weekend. Brock Yates talked to a dejected Doug Wolfgang after a very violent confrontation with the 2P car of Rick Montgomery.
Dougie, okay? Your bell run pretty good, huh?
Yes, I'm all right.
You okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, obviously Doug Wolfgang's shaken up here, but he's going to be all right. He's a very tough man, but not feeling so well right now, and obviously the race car badly beat up, Gary.
From the replay, we can see that the white number 4 on the left of your screen cuts across the track and gets into the 2P Rick Montgomery car, who in turn plows into Wolfgang's number 8 car. Doug Wolfgang obviously gets the worst of it, spinning into the guardrail and tearing up the entire front suspension and wing. Rick Montgomery does not fare much better as his car then rolls, crushing the top wing. What a bitter pill for Wolfgang to crash in his first heat race on the first night of competition and sustain such massive damage to his frontline car. With the huge Knoxville crowd watching, and obviously dejected Doug Wolfgang goes over to survey the damage, which at first glance was very serious. But he and his team were able to fix the car well enough to finish 8th overall at the 1990 Knoxville Nationals. A great driver, a great team, Doug Wolfgang.
Every few years, a motorsports personality comes along who pushes his way into the consciousness of racing fans. In recent years, the name of funny car driver John Force has come to mean two things: unpredictable, high-intensity interviews, and a racing style that frequently pushes right over the edge.
John Force's biggest problem of late has to do with keeping blowers on his engine. Here it happened for the first time in qualifying at the 1987 Winter Nationals. He and Gucci Boston have been battling the problem ever since. Then, in round 1 at the same race, it was the same problem. Watch the body of the car lift as a blower explodes. Something had to be done. But nobody knew quite what, and the 1987 season was off to a disappointing start. Then at the very next race on the schedule, the Gator Nationals, it was a different race, but same problem. Kaboom. Austin Coyle, however, now had a plan. The solution turned out to be engaging the second magneto after the burnout. And the Force crew has continued to do that to this day. But blower explosions were not the only incidents that John Force would drive through. At the 1989 Winter Nationals, John had a problem of a different kind. It was not getting the car to go fast, it was getting the car to go slow.
John Force, you all right?
Great. Great. Boy, that's a E-ticket for you, buddy.
Indeed, I've never seen anything quite like it.
Well, Coyle's gonna just his pants when he sees that mess. Chutes didn't come out. Tore him clear of the roof. I was gonna make the curve. I wasn't gonna roll her. I thought I could put her in the sand, but she bit. She bit in head first.
Any driver would have done what you were doing. You weren't carrying that much speed.
No, I was trying to get the chutes out. I was trying to make a decision here if I could make the curve, and that old boy rolled the other day, and I just said, she ain't gonna make that curve. I ain't gonna look like no fool here and have her flip over. And I said, put her in the sand, but I never thought she had dug in. That baby dipped on me, hooked the nose, and what a ride.
Then at the 1990 North Star Nationals, blower problems at Force and Coyle thought they had solved cropped up again in a big way. Just off the starting line at Brainerd, the blower popped and ignited a huge engine fire. As you can see from these dramatic in-car camera pictures, Force had to fight mightily to keep the car off the wall and get it stopped. All the while, dealing with flame lapping up into his face. Quickly, though, John ran out of air in the cockpit. And even though the car was still moving at a slow rate of speed, he bailed out hard onto his right shoulder. He walked away, but that shoulder was real sore for a while.
It smoked the tires real big, and I just leaned on it too hard. Probably driver error there. I should have got out of it. And it was up, and it just went up, and it banged so quick. And I didn't think it lit at first, and then I was on the brakes, and didn't get no burns, only got hurt. I just finally ran out of time. I had to get out the window. This is hell right before Indy, ain't it? And before Brainerd, but it got too hot to stay in, and I've watched the last few weeks these guys being on fire and getting stuck in a wall and can't get out of their cars, and that scared me, and I just made up my mind. I'm going out the roof. I don't care how fast she's going, and that's when I hit the ground on my shoulder, but hell, what can I say? Hey, the fans got their money's worth, huh? This is just an old bulldog fight's what it is, and we got bulldogged.
Then at the most prestigious race on the NHRA calendar, the 1990 U.S. Nationals, John Force was up against Bruce Larson for the $50,000 grand prize in the Big Bud Shootout. It was the final round, all or nothing, when John torched it again.
You might have just spent 50 to win 50.
Was that good or high? Yeah. Okay. I only bumped the guardrail once.
It's okay. You're okay, man.
And I used the fire bottles. Good driving.
All right. You got him this time.
And I had my foot out when she blew. Tell him to do the same thing.
John, you've been living with this threat of fire every run for 2 races.
Exciting, ain't it? Hey, scary. The only thing I was worried about, you know, I got a brand new car here sitting in Perdome's shop, but I didn't want to use it. This thing's just a real hellraiser, and I couldn't get it off the fence. It was right on the fence. I only touched her once. It didn't get into the chassis. NHRA and their deal saved us. Bud Shootout, Castrol, Jolly Rancher, Wax Shop, Easy Wider. We're earning our paychecks.
And he's got enough money to buy blowers.
What we run?
Well, in just one pass down the track, John Force set a new standard for hanging it over the edge.
Hey, we got him! We got it!
Well, try as they might, the Force team could not cure the blower explosion problem. Against Mark Oswald in the Final Four at the Heartland Nationals, the car was once again set for a lap time nirvana or full meltdown. Guess what happened here? The crowd loved it, and Forrest was winning events regularly, but it was starting to get really expensive.
Well, John, your problems have been at the finish line until now.
Well, same thing happened to Brainerd. I pedaled her and the motor revved up on me, and Coyle said, Forrest, you can't get back after her, but red car made a move, and I knew he'd run good numbers. Only way we were going to go was for the throat, and you ain't got time to think whether you're going to blow up and catch on fire. Just try to chase that old boy down, and bang, boom, whatever.
You came here for points, and you got a few.
Yeah, well, we'll take some points, and that hurt our feelings, but money can buy that, and car's safe, and
you're all right.
Load up and head for Dallas.
Well, despite the explosions and all of the money spent fixing the damage, John Forrest won the Winston Putty Car Championship for 1990. A battle hard fought and well won. In July 1990, our Diamond P cameras traveled to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina for monster truck racing. Steve Kane in King Kong was the odds-on favorite to win against the Carolina Crusher. And when he did. But that's when the real fun began. As if written in a script by every driver ever given a speeding ticket, 2 brand new police cruisers had been parked next to the track, seemingly out of harm's way. But not for long. Hit it, Steve. Diamond P's Army Armstrong topped to the man. The crowd cheered like a 4-wheeled Robin Hood.
When I come over that second set of cars, it got really squirrely on me, and it looked to me like I was going to head for that wall, so I was trying to compensate for it when I was, before I'd hit the ground, turn the wheel a little bit. And I think I turned the wheel just a little bit too much, and, when she hit the ground, that front end really hooked up, and
it looked to me like when you turn the wheel, the right front hit the ground, but at that time, the left front wheel was up on the rail. Is that what could have thrown you over this thing? When you got the left wheel onto the rail, it looked like you're really in trouble.
Yeah, I think that's, I really don't know. Everything was happening so fast, I'd have to look at the video, but I'd say that'd be about right. That front tire hit that rail and everything. And
I'm glad you're okay. We'll see you next week.
We'll see.
Now, let's be honest. We've all fantasized about just this type of thing. So lead foots everywhere. Relish the moment. In 1989, we returned to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course with the IMSA Grand Prix of Ohio, featuring the GTP prototypes. Now, the GTP cars are known to be very temperamental, and when the 98 car of Drake Olson backfired after a routine pit stop, the crew knew there was trouble, and very soon, so did Drake Olson. Saw that ball of fire come out of the car as they tried to bump start it and thought, uh-oh. I mean, you didn't know you were on fire at that point.
No, I didn't know. It wasn't until I got around the other side of the bridge. It felt a little abnormally warm, and my crew chief was on the radio to me telling me to get out. So I looked in the mirror, and there were flames, and then that was all the incentive I needed.
Did you get a chance to look at the car?
Yeah, I did. It melted quite a bit in the rear, but it'll be all right.
Good to see you're okay again.
Thanks a lot.
In any type of motorsports, there is nothing more dangerous and destructive than fire. And even though drivers wear state-of-the-art protective clothing, the memory of a race car fire does not soon leave a driver's consciousness. On to Nashville, Tennessee, and the ASA Series All-American 400 held at Nashville Motor Raceway. In qualifying for the 1989 event, it was the number 3 car of Kenny Wallace tagging the wall coming off of the back straight. Then, in the All-American 400, it was a very tight field on the backstretch when one of the crowd got loose and all of the others followed into one great pile-up. It was a while before race officials got that one cleaned up. Then, on the last lap of the All-American 400, Bobby Dotter in the white number 6 was leading the race and had the inside line on the blue 98 of Jody Ridley. For some reason, Ridley came to the inside, taking out not only Dotter, but also causing 81 Harold Fair to spin and crash. Jody Ridley was the only one of the 3 cars involved in the incident who was able to get underway again, but he was obviously no longer in contention to win the race. This is one of those incidents that caused tempers to flare and will be endlessly debated. But all the other 2 drivers knew, Harold Fair in the 81 car and Bobby Dotter in number 6, was that victory had been snatched from them.
It was our race. We had it won. This team, our crew, Ed Reisen's team, worked so hard. This was a brand new car for this race. We ran our strategy all day, and it's just really unfortunate that you have to race against someone of the caliber that what Jody Ridley had to do to me to take the chance to win for himself. It's very unfortunate.
A very emotional moment here. Jody, I'll tell you what. Are you okay, first of all?
Yeah, I'm fine, bro.
I know. You got to be disappointed. You know, no aches and pains, though, and just a disappointment, huh?
Well, disappointed. I hate it for the guy that got caught up in that. You know, Daughter's been playing like that for the last 3 or 4 races. Man, I had the whole racetrack and just shoved me in a wall down the back there, and I hate it took the other guys out. I don't hate it for him.
Yeah.
But, you know, and then they come over here and just jump on my guys. They're caught pitching ratchet, you know. And poor sportsmanship, the way I see it.
And the debate rages. The 19-event 1990 NHRA season was as spectacular as any on record, and one of the first to prove it was Al Hoffman in his BDS funny car. These spectacular photographs chronicle a qualifying run at the 1990 Winter Nationals. Just as Al Hoffman left the starting line, the car exploded into a giant fireball. The fiberglass body immediately broke into 2 pieces and was thrown away from the car. This was good and bad for Hoffman. Good in the sense that there was no body to ignite into a bigger blaze, and bad because the fire was delivered right into Hoffman's lap. Al Hoffman walked away uninjured from this incident, but his 1990 season was off to a very poor start. Then in Pro Stock qualifying, it was Rich Marino in the far lane, about to make a run that he will never forget. You can probably guess what Rich had to say to the NHRA safety crew when they arrived on the scene. Yep, it happened so fast there was nothing that I could do. Rich Marino had his bell rung pretty good. You would too if you barrel rolled a car 4 times, but he walked away essentially uninjured, except for his wallet. In this replay, you can see that once a Pro Stock car gets out of the racing groove, it is nearly impossible to control. Rich Marino's car dug in on the left side, and once that happened, Rich was going for a ride, no question about it. Then in Funny Car Round 1, it was Art Hendy in the far lane generating some essentially unwanted television coverage. Like John Force had done 1 year earlier, Hendy had no chutes at the far end of the track and decided to take the car straight into the sand pit. Do you think that Force's 180-degree flip may have been on his mind? You bet. But Art was luckier, and the car stayed upright. Then at the Arizona Nationals, it was Jim Adolph in the far lane, lifting the blower and the body so cleanly that aside from the body laying on the ground, it was hard to tell there had been a problem at all. Then in Top Fuel Round 2, it was Kenny Koretsky, who was also fielding a pro stock car, popping the blower at half track. As the flames burned off the parachutes and Kenny headed into the desert trying to get the car stopped, you can bet he was thinking that maybe he should have stuck with pro stock racing only. In the Top Fuel semifinals, it was now Shirley Muldowney's turn for trouble. Shirley had big problems as she got the front end way up in a wheel stand, and Gary Ormsby in the other lane had to take evasive action.
Well, you know who the real race car drivers are when things like that happen. Shirley, great job.
Had my hands full, Steve, but what a great car. It just, it goes up so fast, I couldn't believe it. And then I saw that line coming. I was praying that Ormsby, I knew it was Ormsby. I mean, I was thankful it was Ormsby is what I wanted to say.
You had a pro in the other lane as well.
Yeah, I thought, golly, I'm telling you, it was on a heck of a pass.
Well, this guy's got a great future.
Great car, I'm telling you.
Not a bad driver either.
Thank you, Steve, appreciate it.
At Houston Raceway Park, Jimmy Nix joined the ranks of drivers like Garlitz, Prudhomme, and Hill, all victims of Top Fuel blowovers. Now imagine how disheartening it must be to totally destroy a brand new car, and you'll know how Jimmy Nix must have felt that day at the Super Nationals when he saw months of hard work and planning go right out the window. Remember Gary Ormsby's wing collapse at the '89 California Nationals? Well, at Houston, in Top Fuel qualifying, Tony Colletta's car suffered the same fate. From this replay, we can see that after the wing struts broke, the rear end of the car unloaded, and at that point, there was nothing that could be done. And even though Colletta got the parachute out, it was too little, too late. Connie Colletta had to spend a couple of days in the hospital, and while he was there, he heard a doctor describe his condition as conscious, alert, and stable. Colletta said, "I've improved then from the crash. I've never been all three at the same time in my life." He has since fully recovered and driven again. At the Gator Nationals, it was round one and funny car eliminated with Johnny West in the far lane when he whacked the wall just after the start against Ed McCullough.
Johnny West gets out of the right-hand side of his funny car because I believe he really doesn't want to see the left-hand side. And obviously rung his bell just a little bit. You all right, John?
Oh, yeah. My little girl kicks me in the belly harder, and that just took me by surprise more than anything.
The other side of the car is going to, well, you got about $1,500 is my estimate.
Doesn't cost me a dime.
You can do it all yourself.
I just can do it all myself. I got good people at home to help us out doing all this stuff. The whole city of Phoenix and Chandler just pitches in and helps us beyond belief, really. It's a community effort for us, and it's pretty much free for us, and that's what makes it worth our while.
Attention, Phoenix. Get out the fiberglass. Johnny's headed home.
Also in funny car round one, it was Jim White. Remember him? Just after the start, the left rear tire blew apart, taking a lot of the body with it. It was only Jim White's skillful driving that kept the car from sustaining much more damage.
Just when it looked like all of the bad luck Jim White had with this team last year was turning around the low qualifier, this happens. Obviously, the tire off the car, either punctured, torn away, tremendous amount of body damage, but the good news is Jim White's okay. But you always seem to be, no matter the incident.
Well, so far we have been. The safety equipment is excellent. Murph McKinney built the chassis. He did an excellent job. Everything does what it's supposed to do, you know.
What do you think happened?
Well, it's hard to say. That was a brand new tire, brand new set of tires for first round this morning. It looks like the tire just came apart somehow. I don't know. We'll just get it over and get the Goodyear guys to take a look at it. They do an excellent job too. We can't complain about the product they give us.
Absolutely.
At the Winston Invitational, it was Richard Hartman driving the Nick Bonenfant Ray Bestis funny car, taking a wild ride that he would just as soon forget. Fortunately, he was able to get the car under control and avoid much more damage. Then, at the 1990 Summer Nationals in the funny car final, a bit of liquid got under one of Johnny West's tires, causing the car to veer sharply to the right and hit the wall hard. Johnny West was knocked unconscious by the impact, and the car continued down track, gaining speed as it went, crossing the finish line at nearly 100 miles per hour. In one of the scariest incidents that I have witnessed, clearly everyone held their breath as it became clear that Johnny West was not going to stop. The impact was devastating. In replay, we can see that the car impacted the wall very hard. An impact undoubtedly hard enough to render Johnny West unconscious, unable to stop his out-of-control race car.
Well, here is what remains of the body of the Johnny West funny car. The chassis has been impounded by the state of New Jersey. That's the law here. I'm with Dr. Joe Oliver, NHRA physician. What can you tell us, Dr. Oliver, about Johnny West?
Johnny West, unconscious at the point of impact when we arrived at the scene, was still unconscious, regained consciousness during the process of removing him from the car. He has been placed in a C-collar, transported to the hospital with an IV and nasal oxygen. His blood pressure and vital signs are stable, and it appears that it is only going to be a concussion, and the prognosis is excellent.
Oh, that's great news. Thank you, Dr. Oliver.
Johnny West, a very lucky man indeed. At the 1990 version of the Mile High Nationals, Lori Johns got her first taste of what it was like to hydraulic an engine and feel the flames against her back.
Lori, first of all, you okay?
I'm fine. This is really disappointing. I don't believe, I mean, I've never seen destruction like that before, and I've seen some pretty bad ones. This is not what's supposed to happen. Pretty humiliating.
It was certainly one of the brightest Roman candles we've seen in a long time. No heat in the cockpit, though?
No, I was fine. I just got out and kind of dropped down to my knees. So I couldn't believe we had so much damage, and this is just not what you want to see happen. We want to do well, and this is not supposed to happen.
Indeed not.
Like the engine explosion we saw with Mark Oswald earlier, the compressed liquid that becomes trapped in the cylinder absolutely blows the engine to pieces when it's compressed. It's called hydraulicking. At one of the few races in recent memory that NHRA has run at night, Tom Huber in his Showtime funny car lived up to its name and provided the fireworks. Once again, we witness a great driving job as Huber kept the car in the center of the track and away from the walls where some real body and chassis damage could have been done.
Well, we're glad to report that Tom Huber not even singed, and that was a lot of driving, getting that car stopped and that fire out, Tom.
All I could think about was some of the experiences we had over the years, and I did my best to stop it. And I'm telling you what, the smoke is plenty heavy in there. At one point, I was out of the car because I couldn't breathe, and the car was still running. I went back down and made sure the fuel shut was off so the motor would shut off, but it was plenty exciting there for a while.
Well, the interior 10 kept the fire off of you.
It did, and I couldn't stop. I was sliding the oil. I knew I hydraulicked it. It dropped the cylinder wheel left, and it put a rod right out.
By getting it stopped and getting the fire out, you minimize the damage to the car.
It's my money, and I'm stopping that baby. I almost hit the guardrail.
At the Northwest Nationals in Seattle, Washington, it was Frank Kramberger in the Philadelphia Flyer lighting it up at half track. Like many others before him, he did not trigger the fire bottles and found himself inside a fully involved blazing fiberglass inferno. As soon as he got the car stopped on the side of the track, he popped up through the roof hatch and was helped out of the car by fellow funny car driver Casey Spurlock. Then, as fate would have it, Casey Spurlock himself got into exactly the same trouble during eliminations. But he did everything right in getting the car stopped. He kept the car off of the wall. He pitched it sideways to scrub off speed. He triggered the fire bottles. He got the roof hatch open. And as soon as he was moving slow enough, Casey Spurlock bailed out. Are you okay, buddy?
I'm fine, Steve. It got close to the lights and I was behind. It was moving around quite a bit and it popped. And as soon as it popped, I could see the flames coming out from underneath. So, I just tried to get her stopped, shut down, and get the fire bottles on. I'm fine.
Good driving. I said it then and I'll say it again. Good driving. Earlier, we showed you what a blown tire could do to a funny car running at full speed. Well, at the 1990 North Star Nationals, it was Doc Holliday's turn to narrowly miss disaster when a tire blew in this run against Tom Hoover.
You're looking at what probably kept Doc Holliday off the wall in addition to his incredible driving. That's the inner liner inside these big slicks on a non-beadlock wheel. It holds the air. Doc, that was one heck of a job at driving.
It was tough. Excuse me. I thought I was going to hit Tom. I had to come around on the inside of him, and I just pushed it up against the guardrail and held on.
And still air in that inner liner.
Oh, the inner liner did a great job. That saved us. I'm a little out of breath yet, but...
We'll let you get it collected.
Damage here, but we'll survive.
In an event that was characteristic of the 1989 Funny Car champion Bruce Larson's entire season, he popped the blower at Brainerd and had a monumental fight on his hands to keep the car under control and get it stopped. Bruce could not win a single event in 1990 and was not a factor in the championship.
Well, it felt like a real good run until I got down around 800 or 900 feet, and then it just started to lay over, and before I had time to take my foot out of it, it blew, and I imagine the blower blew off. I haven't gone over to look at the car, but then everything just got kind of dark in there because of the smoke, and when a time like that comes, you have to kind of steer by the seat of your pants. You really do, and you have a kind of a sense of direction where you're going, and I knew I was sideways a couple times, and it wasn't until the last instant that I thought I was in trouble, and then I tapped the guardrail a little bit. And it seems to take forever when you go to get out of the car. You get your belts loosened. You can't do that while you have a hold of the brake and grabbing for all the other vital things. So it seems to take forever, but Ronnie says I came out of there in a big hurry.
Indeed he did. In many ways, what you have just seen is a testimony to the people who make the rules in motorsports and the people who build the cars, so that this tape, despite everything you've seen, can be called, and they walked away. Part 2. For all of us at Diamond P Sports, I'm Steve Evans saying thanks and so long for now. For the very best in motorsports entertainment, reach for Diamond P Videos. From NHRA Championship Drag Racing to the world of outlaw sprint cars, Diamond P gives you the best seat in the house for motorsports. And with more than 20 spectacular titles to choose from, you can build a video library complete with drag racing milestones, in-depth video biographies, rare historic footage, and just plain fun on wheels. And one title you won't want to miss is and they walked away. From 6 seasons of American Sports Cavalcade, Diamond P Sports has selected 75 minutes of your favorite breathtaking incidents and combined them into a video that will awe even the most seasoned sports fan. And they walked away let you relive the excitement as fearless competitors from all segments of motorsports push to the edge of disaster in their quest for victory. You'll experience the thrill when suddenly something goes wrong. A spin, a crash, a fire, someone crossing over the edge. Then you'll share the gut-wrenching excitement as help rushes in and you realize that, miraculously, the competitor has emerged unharmed. All this plus expert commentary by Brock Yates, Paul Page, and me, Steve Evans, make And They Walked Away a must for video entertainment. And for the best in drag racing action, there's Decade of Thrills 2, the thunder of the 80s, as could only be presented by the superstars of NHRA drag racing. Decade of Thrills, the original, was hailed as the ultimate drag racing experience. But who would have ever imagined in the 80s would see Eddie Hill sizzling 493 in Houston, followed by Gary Ormsby's Dallas 491, or Bob Glidden's incredible 6.5 flip trip at Atlanta Dragway. Big Daddy Don Garlett's reach for the stars during the 1986 Summer Nationals, and of course the 1989 season, which not only provided one of the tightest championship duels in the world, but a festival of smash and crash. All this plus expert commentary by Don Prudhomme, and again myself, Steve Evans, make Decade of Thrills 2, the thunder of the 80s, a must for video entertainment. To order your copy of either And They Walked Away or Decade of Thrills 2, or to receive a free Diamond P Sports video catalog, call 1-800-421-0725. Each video is $24.95 plus $4 shipping and handling. You may also send a check or money order to the address on your screen. California, Florida, and Tennessee residents at appropriate sales tax. Visa and MasterCard welcome, no CODs. Diamond P Sports, the leader in motorsports video.